going to.
Right, really good, but again, the budgeting is on.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Mucko,
Here.
Ms. Sestero,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Erkins, Mr. Rastigar.
TM, are you able to give us a hear? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, TM?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Right. Moving on to approval of the regular minutes dated December 23rd.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Do I have a second? I'll second. Unless somebody online wants to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. On to the monthly activity and finance report. Stephanie and Cody.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, those in person, and those are virtual today. We've got some exciting updates. There'll be a little bit of a longer agenda today, so just going to prep everybody for that. We've got quite a bit of items on the agenda, so we will move quickly through the presentation today. I will be going through my operational slides very, very quickly because obviously we'll have Julie Rising, our Assistant Executive Director, giving an operational update that'll cover most of all of that information that I touch on in those slides. A couple different new ways of presenting, obviously 2026. So we have a couple new ways of presenting the information. I'll take feedback from the board members as we go on how clarity, any additional clarity that you're looking for or additional information maybe that you're seeking that isn't in this information, but it's very similar to the information we presented last year, just in a little bit more of a condensed or easy to understand way, I hope. So get a number of events by the month from the prior month. This is for December. So we had a total of 36 events in fiscal year 2026, which is December of 2025. 27 of those being banquets, 5 of those being meetings, 2 conventions, and then 2 other, one of those being Festival of Trees and the Wintering Market as the other. Sure, consumer, public, kind of social event type of stuff there at the bottom, as I've highlighted. Again, our top 3 drivers each year are those, the green, the teal, and the purple that we get the most of. Everything else, that's why I put it under other. As far as the event attendance goes, again, a really, really strong month for December. It was a record attendance month for December. Big portion of that obviously due to Festival of Trees, and it outperformed the forecast. Last December, we had about 36,000 people come through the building. This December, we had 38,000, almost close to 39,000 attendees come through the building, which is awesome. Festival of Trees being the biggest driver of over 30,000 of those. Simplot's Holiday Lunch being close to 900. McMillan at a little close to 767. And then obviously below that, Vertical Aviation at 750 and on down. You can see the forecast for January is a little bit lower than what it was prior year. So again, we continue to evaluate these. We can't make people show up for events. So it's just a goal and an objective that we pay attention to, or a KPI that we pay attention to, but it's not one that we necessarily have control over. Overall guest satisfaction, this is a brand new survey for 2026. So this is starting out with a brand new year. We have 14 responses from the events that were held in December. So out of those 36 events there, 14 of them have responded. We had 13 5 out of 5s and 1 4 out of 5s. Real exciting part, you'll get to see a little of the individual department detail today from Julie on the surveys that come back. So we do survey more than just the overall experience of Boise Center, but this is a good metric from kind of how that they had their experience here from all departments. As far as market strategy goes, the team is off to a really, really great start. Allie and her department are at 12% of their future booked revenue goals, 564,000, almost 565. Future book economic impact at 14% of the goal 1 month in, at $2.7 million future book economic impact. And that's for future years to date. So it's not just for next year, it's for all future years going forward. And I'll show you guys how we compare that from year over year. And then future booked room nights at 12% of the goal over 4,000. So really great activity already starting out the year since he confirmed for July of 2026, which is a very great piece of business there with 2,300 room nights, about 1.8 million in economic impact. A few site visits that the team held here, Toyota Motor Sales from May of 26, I Succeed, Arts Northwest, and Structural Engineers of Idaho. So a couple of exciting site visits that took place in December. Obviously, we had our carpet renovation going on at that time. So a lot of activity within the building, both renovations and just getting people in to look at the space. As I talked about, the goals, and as you can see, the teal there is the current month, and the year-to-date prior would be the purple one right behind it. So when you're looking at the far left column, that future booked economic impact, the team is doing an outstanding job compared to the year-to-date prior on that one. So that's a 1.7 over from year-to-date. So the team is really doing a good job on the economic impact. Future booked revenue, again, outpacing that at 564,000 over the prior year-to-date, which was 335,000. And then you can start seeing where we're at year-to-date, which is obviously the first month. So those match that teal bar, and then the total goal being the green on the back. Same story over on the future booked room night. So the team is having a really, really outstanding start to the year. Some of that's, I'll let Ali speak to it. She does her reports quarterly, but the team is just out there making sure Boise is getting its name out and opportunities for more business. Spoke to this before. I won't go anything into operational updates because Julie will take all of the food and beverage and operational updates. As far as our operating revenues go, we had a record high December. It came in at a $1.38 million a year or month. Again, very, very close to the prior year. If you were to look at it, we had a $1.33 million a year in December of the prior year, with Festival also falling in that. So a little bit of an inflated number for December when Festival does hit that, but it is a great start to the year. I did highlight what our prior year's revenues were for the fiscal years up above in the colors there. So you can see where we came off of a $11.1 million a year. 24 was 11.9, and I've got 24 in there twice. So I don't know why I've got that in there twice, but I'll change that to 23, which was just shy. It was about a $10.7 million a year. So again, continue to see really good increases there. I spoke to this to the board about how the first month will come out like gangbusters. We're sitting at a 33.5% gross margin after all of the revenues that were taken in from Festival of Trees, but a lot of those expenses falling into the end of the year in November. So we've upped our goal 2% to account for that, because finishing a little bit lower than what we expected from the goal last year. Some of that was just the nature of where the expenses and revenues fell. As far as economic impact, another really great story here for the center and the district. We're off to a really great start. This is again a December record for economic impact, brought in over 8.7 million for the month alone. So a great start to the year. Our goal being 55 million. We finished last year at 51.2, just for reference. So kind of showing that we are upticking on the economic impact and continue to see higher revenue generating events, higher economic impact generating events. A little bit different way of presenting this information here, and I think it's something that we're paying close attention to. But obviously, lodging room revenues, I want to point out that these are not the revenues of the district. This is the total revenues from the STR reports. The district would get 5% of those revenues within the district boundaries. So that's an important note to make here. But again, we're seeing lodging room revenues just slightly down from the prior December when you're taking a look at those. 12,000 versus the 12.2 million. So at 12 million versus the 12.2 million. A little bit of a story there would be that while revenues are slightly down, which is interesting, the demand is slightly up. But what I think is important to note here, when you're taking a look at those year-to-date numbers at the bottom, when I go back and I look at revenues, all of those are positive variances across the line when you're looking at a running 12. And actually demand is starting from 24 to 25 slightly down. Some of that can have to do with just the nature of the bookings that happened, or whether or not more people came into town in December. But we are seeing that as an interesting trend there to pay attention to. As average daily, go ahead, Mike.
Just ask a question, you know, simple math. Can you go back one more slide? Is that revenues for the entire 2025?
This is just December's revenues here.
No, sorry, the running 12-month number.
This one here? This one, running 12 would be for 2025, yes.
So is there someplace else we get, this isn't 5% of 224 million?
That's not all the district boundaries. That's the entire like STR report, what they calculate. So that's not all district hotels.
Ah, okay, perfect. Sorry, thank you.
Yep. So 5% of that would not equal what we get from the hotel tax side. So that's where you're going.
Let's think about that project.
My mouse on here so I can use it. Again, ADRs, I think this is an important one to pay attention to as we look at prior years within ADR is actually up again. So this mixed picture, a little bit of demand being down, But again, the average daily rate is up almost $2 from the prior year. And then as you get into occupancies, you'll start noticing a similar picture on that as well. Geez. When you start looking at the occupancies, we're noticing a little bit up on the occupancies as well, which is driving those ADRs. So it is something that we'll pay close attention to. We are seeing a leveling off and a little bit of softening in the hotel market. And that was something that was forecasted. So I have my new forecast numbers. Obviously finished the year at a 68.2 occupancy for the entire area, and then $150 a night for the ADRs. So it's up about just over $1 from the prior year as far as the ADRs, and then occupancies actually slightly down from 2024. So we're seeing that leveling off, as I've mentioned. Again, some forecasting from tourism economics is where I get these numbers, mixed in with some of our just historical data. And the forecast coming in just slightly higher, another about $1 jump on the ADRs, and a little bit of a leveling off as you're seeing a 1% slightly decrease on the occupancy. Some of that will be that we're getting additional hotel rooms at the end of the year in the third, fourth quarter, depending on when AC Element comes online. And that'll impact those occupancies as they get the additional 300 rooms. Couple district updates, just real quick at a high level. Really proud of what we did. That completed a full day strategic planning session, so we'll get a chance to hear the outcome from that. With having the executive leadership and board of directors together for the first half of the portion of the day, I thought was extremely valuable. We will be following up based on the approval of this strategic plan from the district side with a staff and operational portion of kind of a strategic plan that will follow once that approval has happened from the board side. We have engaged in a second scope of work for Johnson Consulting. It was executed this week. It'll take approximately 6 weeks to complete, with the data coming back on March 6th. What this is taking a closer look at a stackable opportunity. Obviously, as the opportunities adjacent to the Boise Center are somewhat limited in the size, what the scope came back, or what the report came back with from the feasibility report, would be that 100,000 square feet of contiguous space. So our question is, if we can only achieve 40 or 50,000 square feet of that, and we're to stack it on top to an 80,000 to 100,000 total, we know it's not going to be as usable as what a fully contiguous space would be. So we're trying to figure out what the percentage of decreased utilization would be, and then impact to the overall operation if we were to go stackable. We're also looking at what a close proximity site would do if we were able to build an exhibit hall. Would it add into the convention opportunity to use it, even though it's maybe not directly connected? So some additional information as part of that scope of work that I think will really guide the board and the district well as we go forward.
Is there any planned, last time they had stakeholder meetings, they met with board members? Will that not be?
No, because it's just, they're taking the same information in the data and asking we've asked for some additional clarifying questions. So it'll just take that. They may have another come back and ask some additional questions. We're going to be meeting next week on that, whether or not there needed to be any other additional engagements. But from my understanding, they believe they have all the data they need to do this scope of work. The Aquatic Center parking lot is moving forward, and the work is scheduled to begin at the end of March or early April. Our operators at the Aquatic Center are very excited about this, getting some additional parking spots, some curbing along some areas where the users are parking in kind of the landscaped areas, which are causing some challenges. So we continue to look at that as a solution, and very, very excited there to get that project completed. A couple things I just want to recognize Mary Michael and the team on. We had some really great fiscal year-end Boise Center media coverage on our year-end operating numbers. And Idaho Press, Idaho Statesman, and Boise Dev all carried forward with the articles about the district and the center. So very, very proud of that. I want to thank Mary Michael for her efforts on that. That, I'll stand for questions before I turn it over to Stephanie for the financial portion.
Questions?
Good afternoon. So this is the district overview for year-to-date numbers, obviously. Our revenues for the Boise Center year-to-date 1.4. Budgeted, we are just a little shy of that. As you can see, the district is outperforming the budget already. Oh, way to go. We're kicking off 2026. This is a new slide. This is room nights and total spent credits. One of the things we wanted to do here was show the board that return on investment for the economic impact. We are giving room night and total spend credits to entice, bring, reward those that are hosting their events here at the Boise Center. And so this is just a little something to show you guys what those discounts are that have been given so you can compare it with the economic impact.
When you say credit, this is applied toward hotel, this is given from Boise Center to hotel rooms or what?
No, it's actually applied to the client. So
It's
we're
the client.
competing in a market where, and I'll let Ally speak to this if she wants to jump in here, but other convention markets that have hotels, especially convention hotels, will offer room rates for free to get the business. So they'll get the food and beverage, they'll get the room nights from that. And so through our mechanisms with having the subsidies come from the hotel side, we do incentivize groups with either total spend or room night. If they hit a certain number of room nights or a total spend at the Boise Center on their services, that they can achieve these discounts that are credited. And so we
Okay.
use hotel tax to help that incentive, to incentivize those groups to come
The
here.
word discount just cleared it up for me. I was.
Oh, see, I always think it's the room night for me. That's what's always, I'm like,
And I know it's
which
confused our
one?
attorney until probably a year ago as well.
Yeah.
But yes, I was very baffled by it. So the discount is to the amounts they pay you all.
Correct.
Correct.
So you are simply.
Those discounts-
charging them a slightly lower rate.
Correct.
Right. Yep. But it doesn't go outside.
It does not go to the hotels. It goes directly back to the clients on their total spend. Because we know if they're driving that type of economic activity, they're bringing in that type of heads and beds. Those are money that is coming back to the district in one form through the tax and also through revenues here. So
It's a very common practice.
very, very common practice in the industry. Convention centers are subsidized. This is some way of us showing at the rate that we are subsidizing in that economic impact return at 8.7 million. I think that's a really great spend to get that additional economic impact.
And so when you say it's an applied credit versus a budgeted, are there times where people don't take you up on the credits because
There
it's
are times where their forecasting may not achieve the levels of credits, or they might even achieve higher than what we anticipated,
I
depending on
see.
how many room nights or total spend that their event has.
great? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did Miss Ally, you want to add anything? Sorry to put you on the spot, just checking.
So it's a performance clause, and most of our groups now are in a category where we base our performance on room night pickup and actual food and beverage spend with us. So we take those two inputs, and then that leads us to, hey, you get a percentage discount on your facility rental at the end of the event on your final invoice.
So that's a good way to kind of show where we're at and how we're pacing to what we budgeted this year for those credits.
Stephanie, I love this slide.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
No. It was one of those where we're talking and then it's like, well, I'd like to show this, but he's the one who does the graph. So it's nice that he's able to take that and put it into a visual. So I'm glad you like it. This also shows the Boise Center operating transfers. It is transfers. Is this just the Boise Center? So for December, we transferred from the district 246,000. Little under budget there. It could be from the capital projects just not taking place, funding in December.
I'll correct that. It's actually,
Okay.
this is just operating, so we have the capital side coming.
Oh, okay,
This is actually outperforming, meaning that we had such a good year from revenues that we didn't need to subsidize at the rate that we
even
forecasted.
better.
And this will be just monthly.
Correct. And I can have an annual going below that if we would like one, but this just shows December as the first month, but we can have an annual pacing as well.
Will there be opportunities like we saw with Festival of Trees where sometimes expenses will hit in different months? Would that be useful then to have an annual so we could see if there's
Yep.
fluctuations?
Correct. Yep. And it's a good way to compare how healthy we are because this naturally, as we pointed out, the industries and convention centers subsidized. This is a way to show how we're using our subsidies. And I think this slide right here really kind of separate from what you're going to see on the capital side, which is maintaining the facility,
Right.
is what we need to do to operate the building, to make sure that we're driving that type of economic activity, and then the total credits that we're giving back to clients to incentivize them to come here.
Hey, here's our fun hotel tax collection one. This one hasn't changed. But it will. So for December, we collected 800 and I'm sorry, my glasses apparently are filthy, $826,000 from the district. And we had budgeted the 797, so came in a little higher. Last year, our total hotel tax revenues was the 12.1. We're forecasted for 12.4 this year.
We're starting out almost 30,000 ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Boise Center capital transfers. We have budgeted the 3.3.
3.9.
3.925. And of that, we have transferred 614,000. So we're gonna have this on a sliding scale to show you where we're at with that 3.9 on a monthly basis, a year-to-date monthly basis.
And as projects complete, we'll have those completed on there and then we'll show in progress as they're in progress as these go on. So it's another way to show the progress.
I'm loving the excitement around new charts.
It's the little things.
Now every year you're gonna do this, you're gonna create new charts.
All right, I'm okay with that.
He loves
I
it.
do like it.
He does. This is the investment portfolio pulled off the Clearwater website. You guys always love the interest income there of $86,272 this month. So really nice. A cash position for the district. You take into account the cash, the investments, the restricted funds that we've set aside, stabilization funds. The actual right now is 31.291. We are, oh, you did put it on here. We'll be updating this slide once we get the strategic plan goals approved, and so this will be updated as well.
I think it'll be an important message to kind of show what the board has done on those strategic priorities, to kind of show where our potential cash would be going towards or how we're going to manage that, be good stewards of that.
Any
Any
questions?
questions? Jim or Tim, speak up if there's any questions. All right.
None from my end so far.
None
It
from
just
me.
it takes a nerd to appreciate the conversion into graphics, so I appreciate it.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion to approve. Do
So moved.
you have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
I
opposed? All right. Report is approved. Strategic plan update. Rob?
Get a chance to introduce Rob. I know that the board has had a chance to meet with Rob, but I want to introduce him to the rest of the group in the room and those on the call. Rob is with Black River Performance Management Group and had done a strategic plan framework and direction for the district. I just want to say thank you to him and the board for their time. Like I said, it was just a motivating day for me, to be honest, to see that much synergy in the room with the exec team and with the board all kind of working together in one direction, and then spending the second half of the day with just the board and kind of finalizing those strategic priorities. And so I have Rob here today to speak to that process.
Thank you. Well, you kicked it off. I was gonna say all those things, so I don't need to. But the other thing I'll acknowledge is how different this room looks right now, right? It's so much cleaner. All those Post-it notes are disposed of and synthesized into our framework here. So thank you for having me. We went through this process. Just gonna reiterate a little bit of that. Just before we even started, after Cody and I established some ground rules and perspectives, met with the executive staff privately just to get to know them, get a feel for them. And then after that interaction, decided we need to bring them together. We need to get everyone together to lean in and to be a part of the strategic planning process. And so, as Cody mentioned, half a day with the executive team and the other half with the board members, and it was a great day. We covered a lot of ground. And do you have a remote or?
It's right here, right there.
You're right there on.
You're welcome to sit down or you can stand,
Yeah.
either one, whatever you're more comfortable with.
So just a quick overview to give people a sense of the process here. So we have two categories up there, posture and framing. And this is what we use to guide our what we're going to arrive at today to move forward. And with any strategic plan, as we talked about, how many years are going to be the terms for that strategic plan? And we all came in with different ideas and really nothing committed. And through the process of identifying what those targets are, we arrived at a 3-year strategic horizon, clear separation between governance and operations. And so what that means is that the document lays out the foundation of how the work is going to look moving forward from a governance perspective, that this group was not casting Stephanie must do this and Cody must do that and the rest of the staff must do this. This is casting the vision for the next 3 years to determine what it's going to take for this organization to be successful according to its goals and ambitions. And the other key piece here is the annual board review and refresh. And so this was an important part of that conversation, that This group wanted to develop a strategic plan that they're committing to. It's not going to collect dust. It's not going to hold the shelves in place in the back room. So what they've committed to is an annual review, and you just even heard it from Stephanie and Cody as it relates to the approval to tie back into the budget. So that's a great way to integrate those things. So we return to those monthly, but then every year to see where we're at. How do we adjust the targets as we're making progress? Where are we falling a little behind, or where have we completed this work and ready to build more capacity and slide new things in? All right, so as I mentioned, it's not an operational work plan. It's not a list of projects or initiatives, and it's not a commitment to specific actions and investments at this stage. What's ultimately going to happen is that we're going to work. So when I say we, I mean Cody, myself, executive leadership team moving forward now, after the approval of the document, to say, what does this look like for us throughout the organization? And what is it going to take for us to accomplish this? And so we'll go through a series of meetings to build that out so that their operationalized plan nests nicely inside of what the board has established. Okay. So there's 4 strategic priorities that have been identified, and these are in the packet. This is the packet that captures everything. It captures our process. It captures the strategic priorities that the board have been looking at, as well as some light hints as to how this moves forward. But before I bring your attention to the packet, I want to bring your attention to the red sheet with everything crossed out. And find explicitly the black text. I didn't realize that my markup was still long when I said you wanted to. So in the black text section there, you see some highlights with some red words. So Kristen asked some questions about this document, and that's how we integrated this in here. So you raised a very good question about, are we putting so much emphasis on expansion here? What about project? So the reason why I pulled this document together like this is so that the rest of the board members can see that the document you initially received is tweaked just a bit to capture that. We're not changing the essence of it. If anything, it's stronger now. And it opens it up to be more of a clear read of project and expansion possibilities. Okay. So then as we get into this final document, as I mentioned, this is the comprehensive document that the board will have an opportunity to vote on and agree on. And it's really boilerplate in the sense of there's an executive summary, planning, context, and purpose, and then we move into the priorities, right? And it's the priorities pieces that you all had that opportunity to review and weigh in on. And what you arrived at, and in the document, which is in front of you, goes into much more detail. The 4 strategic priorities are community and stakeholder relationships, district asset stewardship, evaluation of future projects, and that's where that update came in, future projects, including expansion and partnership opportunities, and the rolling 5-year financial plan. One of the things we did to try to strengthen this plan for the next 3 years is that we moved each of these 4 targets a little bit further on down the path and identified what I actually use as the language as the target. So these would be priorities, and we have some targets that gives the staff really clear frameworks of where to go forward with their efforts, right? At the end of the day, the staff still has to do their job, right? There's just that day job work that still needs to happen. And it's happening right now as I asked for my ID when I walked in the door downstairs, right? But the point is that what we're trying to do from the board is the board to have that governance framework nice and strong here so that they're a part of this process, but let the good work of the team rise and shine through this. All right, and I have like one more slide, but I'd open up for any questions as it relates to this.
Any questions from any of the board members online or those in person today, kind of with the tweaks that we did make? Just again, really, really proud of the document. I think it does a great deal of clarity for me as the executive director going forward. And also just from prioritizing as we look at project opportunities, even the relationship with stakeholders, how we can engage better. I'm proud of all of the things that live underneath of those individual strategic priorities. So I just open it up for any questions or discussion from the board. Right group today, all right?
I know I had asked Cody something about, it was under purpose, and I know
Yeah.
that this was something that had been developed previously, but, my question was about Prosper versus Gather.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, since that had been something that had been developed, I think at 22.
So are you talking about it up in the mission area?
mhm.
And that's for
Yeah.
you to own. As a group,
Yeah.
you could revisit that
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and adjust that if that's a part
Yeah,
of
we
it.
didn't really take a big deep dive into the guiding beliefs, purpose, vision, and mission because those were just done in 2022 and didn't feel like that those had changed a lot. But if there is, this is where an annual board review
Yep.
has an opportunity. I think there was a small recommended tweak in that, so.
And I'd also like to mention that a lot of the conversation we were looking at this wall was about philosophy, right? And so we worked hard to build the philosophy into the framework. So it captures the essence of it. And then to Cody's point, moving forward as we go through renew cycles, that's a great opportunity for us. As the voice matures, we can integrate new language into the different parts that really truly reflects kind of the currency, the current times we're in, and the ambitions of the board and staff.
Comments?
I think revisiting next year, especially for we believe purpose, vision, mission
Yeah.
will be great because I do think it's going to be at a different target. But no action needed for today.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was thinking too, because I kind of thought, I don't know if it's quite where we are. Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
And that changes the transition board members too, right?
Yeah.
Different essence and spirit of the group.
I mean, in 22, we were in a different, we were
Yeah.
just coming out of COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a totally different mindset. I think we were all thinking about prospering at that point, right?
I got you, yeah.
Well, I also think there's community as mentioned like 6 times in these 3 sections. And obviously that's a priority that we have to have at all times since it's part of our statute. But you obviously serve much broader audiences than exclusively the community that we live in. And finding a way to nuance that with future projects, with growth, with our changing community, I think is going to be something that I'd like to keep a lens toward.
So the board has several options. We could open it for discussion, make some edits, and then potentially approve later at a later date. Or if we're feeling comfortable for this being approved today, then it would be a resurfacing of the guiding beliefs, purpose, and mission for next year, or we could open that up for this year if we feel that there's still tweaks that need to be made there.
Once this is approved, what is the next action from you? I mean, it sounds like it's putting together the plan. If we delayed, that would inhibit you from.
It would potentially put it off another little month, but we were kind of looking at March anyway at this point in time for the staffing portion of it, for the operational stuff. So I have a feeling that wouldn't slow us down from having that. We would just hope that there would be an approval of a strategic plan because we don't want to create any operational objectives until that is approved.
I think there's some nuance in that question there, and it depends on what are you proposing putting it off for, right? If you're going to revisit certain sections and recraft certain sections,
That's a great
then,
point, yeah.
then it won't be a February approval. And there's no pressure. I'm not trying to.
100%.
But that's another gathering work session that we'll be working towards to make sure those pieces are addressed.
And would it be those portions, would it affect the operational?
So
I don't think so, to be honest, now that I've kind of framed it that
Dreamy.
way. If the strategic priorities stayed the same, I think the operational team would come up with our operational priorities to then drive those. And I don't think the vision or the mission would really drive us to change anything there, operations.
I guess one question I have, and I'm looking at Mary Michael because I think this, especially when we think about strategic priority 1 and communications, do you feel like there would be any benefit to bringing back the team to look at these and make sure that there's enough clarity that the team would be able to build a work plan? And I say that knowing that I had lots of opinions about strategic communications, but is what we have here enough for the team to take and turn into work plan directives while we focus on a board level.
I
Does that
don't
make
want to
sense?
speak for my team in that answer, but I feel like the guidance that we have compared to the prior strategic plan is night and day and gives us so much more clarity.
Well, and that's why I asked that, because I know you had said that of
Yeah.
like, I inherited this and there were some pieces in here that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So if that's not a concern.
I feel as an executive director, I could absolutely, with the leadership team here, be able to take objectives and items from this to then operate from.
Okay.
Very strong.
And that really speaks to your role in this governance role, right? So a lot of the emphasis of writing this was a wordsmith so that they lined up clean, so that we didn't violate that operational framework, so that you're consistently staying in this role of casting that vision, throwing the plan out, and then the people stacking in. And to Cody's point there, he really is the middle person in the process where we'll get them together and they'll be like, I'm not sure about this. And actually, the way we'll stack it as we start doing that is there will be some tertiary reviews for clarity with the team before we get into the actual activities of fleshing out what those objectives are. So he'll have that interaction, that opportunity to come back and say, is this what we meant here, or am I thinking about something different? So yeah, it's the plan is set. It's an iterative clarification process.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Rand, I did want to mention, I have read the draft and looked at it and noticed the word communication mentioned many, like the thread that we woven through. And so I suggested to Cody, and I know he doesn't mind if I share it. He explained the next step would be for the Boise Center's leadership team to come up with their own strategy. And some of that I'll play a role within the communication, but at this point in the trajectory of with the board, I think it makes sense for us that do communications, board chair, leadership, Cody, marketing, to probably sit down and talk about how can we help the board communicate and what does that look like to you? And we did this with another strategic communications firm. I want to say 2014 to 16, and definitely did some purposeful communications that were different, using emails, using different things. And if there are things that you'd like to talk about and do or see us do differently for the district or better, I'm happy to talk about that. But I didn't want you to think that I could read your mind, because I can't. So I'd be glad to get together and talk about what that looks like for you and your priorities.
I appreciate that too, just because for one thing, I don't think Cody can be a mind reader for all people at all times, but also going back to what Mike said during this process, I understand that the intention is to be at a board level, governance level, not a day-to-day work plan. But I do think the blur there is going to be a little bit more fluid than having a clear line of the board does this and the team will do that.
The reason I'm confident in being able to drive that is that I was kind of that thread that was on both sides of that. And so I will be able to help kind of carry those objectives and then clarifications. I also believe that there's an opportunity, which I'm just identifying now, to engage the Marcom committee, saying, hey, as communications is in this, that's why we have the different committees on the board, is to engage the staff level and kind of bridge that gap.
I also think too, the board is a different, you are your own government entity and agency separate from Boise Center. So when I speak about us getting together, it's not to represent Boise Center, it's just from the district. I helped with some of the communications PR work that was really around the expansion. And if there's something about that, that's a different box than when Boise Center were talking about exclusive operations. So I can just help be a conduit. And if you don't have to have me as part of that, if you wanted to work with a strategic PR firm on your own too, you could do that. It kind of varies by what the board leadership and would like to do at that point. So it was a different firm then than it is now. So we can talk about that.
Let me build a bridge between
Yeah,
them, because
yeah.
you were excused at this point.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about this,
Yeah,
a lot of what they talked about is similar to what
Okay,
you're
yeah,
mentioning
yeah.
now, right? And so that's great. That means that there's an element of
Yeah.
understanding, and how this becomes a bridge is that you have that insight, you
Yeah.
have that history. So you start to pull together frameworks,
Yeah.
ideas, and questions. And if you notice, there's no champions on this as it
Yeah.
was in the past, because you're all the governance champion, but Cody is the walker of this, walking it up and down. And at the end of the day, he's ultimately the one that's accountable for the execution. And that's why we're keeping it nice and clean to do this. And we totally open it up to make it like integrated as you need to, which is the wonderful thing about having a talented and engaged board. Lots of wisdom there. So you're all talking about, as I synthesize this in my brain, you're all talking about very complementary things. You're in the same
Thank you.
space.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mary Michael has some experience on both two projects that we've gone through, kind of stepping into that district hybrid Boise Center role. One with the Aquatic Center, when the expansion happened there, she helped carry through some communication stuff for the district side on that. And then Boise Center East as we were going through that process as well, so.
Tim and Jim, comments, questions, thoughts?
Nothing at this time.
And Jim, did you get a chance to,
no.
did you get a chance to meet with Jim separately? Okay.
PM was, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, that's fine. No specific comment here. I'm just looking for clarity on pushing out to March versus doing the work now versus back to the next steps that Sophie asked about.
What kind of clarity are you looking for, TM?
What are we going to do? Are we going to leave it as is? Are we going to go for approval, or are we going to wordsmith and massage the mission vision portion?
I'll leave that to the board to make that
Yeah.
decision.
I mean, my personal opinion is I think that the mission vision needs some work, but I don't think it's going to inhibit you guys executing your next step. That's my opinion. So, you know, with that, I mean, I think it's just words here and there, right? And I appreciate adding the projects to an expansion. That was something that I was kind of hung up on. So in my mind, I think it's ready enough to go to operations to start moving forward.
Okay, but
Right,
not
but-
approve the document, because what I would like to do as soon as we approve is post it.
Yeah. No, I'm move to approve
Oh,
so that
gotcha.
you guys can continue to do your operation step. But I'm open to thoughts and comments.
I would create a second motion to revisit the purpose, vision, mission, vision, and guiding beliefs while approving the rest of the document as is, so that you can continue planning and then finalize this document by next month.
I think we can pull that off.
I'll lean into Rob's recommendation there on how to do that. I don't know if it's an in-person another day session or if that's something we could, I don't think it would be, but again, I want to make sure Rob feels comfortable with.
I think your desire, Tim kind of suggested the massaging aspect. It's a combative exercise sometimes. And I think your desire to hit a February target is maybe a little overly optimistic. Especially if you're not sitting down and working through this together. The context is lost through the email exchanges. This is work session work. And so if you want to set aside time, absolutely, it's possible. As early as next week, no problem.
How much time do you think it would take to work through something like that?
I would set aside a half a day, just because it takes the time it takes and you might be done in an hour, right? Like, it's one of those things that you want it done, to Mike's point, right? Done right, and it's worth it to slow
I'm
it
just
down.
looking at Sophie's face, sorry.
Sorry, it's we're in session. I can't commit to another half day, so maybe I need to rescind my, I think it could be accomplished with an email. So if it's going to be a more gratuitous project, maybe that's something that then does need to get shelved till next year.
And another option too is an ad hoc committee to take a leadership role on it. So you could not approve, or you could approve because to your points that the bones are here, or the foundation and framework's here for us to build this house. And there's a vested interest committee that comes together to just, and you can integrate staff into part of that too, for the wordsmithing aspect, because there are pieces in there that need to be enhanced. And you could then work on it in committee, bring it back to the board, and then have it approved, and then an addendum approval.
I mean, there's nothing to say that we can't do another update, right?
Right.
I mean, we can approve an update.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With the thought that we're going to be working on that. And I mean, we could even do a Zoom, right? We could do it, can we do it via Zoom? for, I know, I know you got your process that, yeah, I'm just.
No,
trying
I
to-
don't have a
yeah.
process. I'm very flexible on how we do this. I'm just trying to give an element of reality to it in
Yeah.
the sense of it takes the time it takes.
Yeah.
Especially when someone says one word and someone else says another word and they mean slightly different things and then there's holdout. So it takes the time it takes.
Mike, don't look at me anymore.
I think what my recommendation would be is to approve it and then we come back and take a look at it again, because the vision and the mission are both the statements that are on the current district website right now. So I think that's something that we wouldn't want to shortchange or do too
Right.
quickly. And to Rob's point, I think that we could adopt the document because nothing's incorrect to that, at least to my belief of what we're doing. And the rest of the strategic priorities were such a good time well spent that I'd love to keep the ball rolling forward from that.
And then touch the pieces that we didn't touch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. The mission, vision, and values section is not in conflict with anything else we created, or nor the operators, for the team to operationalize it either. So I'm good with that.
Great.
And so with a thought this spring, right, we get back together and maybe after session for you. So after the legislature breaks, maybe, then we can get back together and really kind of dig into this a little bit more. Then we can update it again and have a full picture. But again, I don't think it's going to inhibit what you guys are going to be doing in operation.
Well, the nice thing is to wait till after the session. It gives people room for the calendar to
Yeah.
then say, look, let's get together and do this, do it right. And then have it clean and we all walk out of the room together that this is it.
And you might get some feedback during your,
Yeah.
when you sit down with the executive team operationally, you may get some feedback that would be important to amending that part of the plan. Some more information. So, okay. Tim, Jim, any more thoughts? I combined your names together.
Hey, at least you didn't call me Faisal like someone else did last time.
One time.
No comments other than just a joke. Yeah.
Okay,
I looked it over. Sorry, I missed it. I had flew that day, but it looks like you guys did a lot of hard work and I appreciate it. So thank you.
So then motion to approve as is,
okay, with the thought that we're
with
gonna
the
be.
thought of approval, or with the thought of updating in
in
near
the
term.
spring. Yep, perfect. Okay, do I have a second of that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Did I hear team? Okay, any opposed? All right, so it's approved with the thought of updating. Perfect,
Thank you, Robert.
great, thank you. And then we'll get together as far as figuring out time.
Absolutely.
Because it'd be nice to have a fully fresh baked.
Yeah.
All right, next up, I'd like to make a motion for an executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-2051F to communicate with legal counsel to discuss legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation.
We'll do that by roll call.
Ms. Mucko,
Yes.
Mrs. Sterrett,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Erkins, Mr. Rastigar.
Yes.
Is.
No, I've got comments. for-
Okay, all right. Okay. It's Jim.
Big X.
All right. Okay, back in open session. On to the next item on the agenda, the legislative updates. What's going on at the Capitol?
Not much. Just kidding. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm unfortunately not John Sheldon. I'm sorry we're so light today, but I'm gonna do my best to give you a quick update on the legislative session so far, and then give you some things that we're looking forward to. So Idaho's 2026 legislative session began on January 12th with Governor Little's State of the State address. During that address, he unveiled his Enduring Idaho Budget Plan, which he says addresses anticipated revenue shortfalls while protecting key priority areas. The budget he laid out includes maintenance-only agency budget, so basically bare bones budgets with an ongoing 3% general fund reduction. He's called for $45 million in cuts to the state's Medicaid program, which will come partially from ongoing 4% provider rate reductions. And then the legislature is going to have to find some additional services or areas within the Medicaid program to find some additional savings. But the governor did explicitly say that he wants to see Medicaid expansion remain intact. So that's going to be a fight at the legislature. That's been a big issue the past couple of years. The governor's plan also calls for conforming with tax cuts in Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. He estimates that conforming with those will cost the state $155 million. Some estimates are up to $400 million. So we're going to have to wait and see what that actual impact is, but that's going to be a big topic of discussion this session. To balance the budget, the governor also calls for using $100 million in rainy day fund interest earnings. He doesn't want to touch the principles of those funds, but he would like to see the state use some of those interest earnings to cover funding gaps. The governor also called for other targeted reductions in the state budget, including a $275 million cut from the transportation department, which will also result in a $110 million cut to local highway districts. But notably, the governor's budget protects a few key programs, including K-12 education funding, the Idaho Launch Program, water investments, and then public safety. So those are the areas that he has protected in his proposed budget. But this is the legislative session, and the legislature does not have to adopt the governor's recommended budget. Legislative leadership has already indicated that they feel the governor's budget doesn't cut quite enough. So we're going to have to wait and see what they decide to do with the budget. I also wanted to highlight some changes in legislative leadership that have occurred. Representative Wendy Horman, who previously served as JFAC's co-chair of the House Committee, resigned to accept a job with the Trump administration, much like our former Department of Health and Welfare director. So she left. That left a hole in the chairmanship on JFAC, and Speaker Mike Moyle tapped Representative Josh Tanner to fill that role. Representative Tanner was previously the House Assistant Majority Leader, and you can't be a member of leadership as well as a germane committee chair. So that means the House had to elect a new Assistant Majority Leader, and they elected Representative Doug Pickett. See, it all just ripples because Doug Pickett was the chairman of House Education, so he can no longer serve in that capacity. So subsequently, we have a new chair of House Education, a new chair of House Business, and then also a new chair of House Agricultural Affairs. Budget discussions are really anticipated to dominate discussion at the Capitol this year, but there are a few other policy areas that we think are going to be big hot topics, and those include Medicaid, obviously, which I already touched on. There's been discussion about the need to protect public lands, and also some wildfire mitigation efforts on those public lands. We might see some legislation on tax credit reform, potentially repealing some tax credits we currently have on the books, in a year where budgets are tight. We don't want to cut taxes. We're a very conservative, or we don't want to raise taxes. We're a very conservative state, but there might be some looking at tax credits that are on the books right now. We also may see some proposals that say, this is growth paying for growth. We've seen one introduced already, but we may see others with that same intention. We're going to see some proposals to increase affordable housing availability. That will likely come in the form of reducing local government zoning restrictions and regulatory hurdles that exist at the city and county levels. And then we are expecting some government transparency and efficiency efforts. If you recall, we had a DOGE interim committee that met between now and when the last legislative session ended, and they made some recommendations on some boards that the state could consolidate, even some agencies that could be consolidated into, larger single agencies. They'd like to see funding eliminated for vacant positions across state agencies. And then also things like reducing state employee travel and things along those lines to, further streamline budgets in a tightening revenue situation. The last thing to note is it is an election year. All 105 legislative seats are going to be on the ballot, as well as our statewide offices. So that's going to influence policy decisions and discussion this year. And important dates to remember are February 23rd through the 27th are the candidate filing period. So that's when we're going to see who has a race, which incumbents are being challenged at both the legislative and statewide level. And we have a primary election May 19th, which in Idaho is really where most of our races are decided. So legislative leadership has set March 27th as their target to finish up business for the year and adjourn, but that leaves them only a month and a half to get back to their districts and start campaigning for that May 19th primary election. So those are kind of the big things we're seeing right now. It is only the second week. I think we have, maybe just over 20 bills that have entered the legislative pipeline this far. So a lot of this is, to be determined, and we'll see what the legislature does. But I would open it up for any questions.
And I'm going to assume I think I know the answer, but with all the changes in leadership or chair positions, does that usually lead to a slower kind of process to getting bills out? And then obviously an election year, them getting out sooner. So is there going to be a more condensed window for legislature?
I don't think so, because none of the new chairmen are new lawmakers. They've been here for at least a year. They have a year of experience under their belt, and most of them were vice chairs before they were just moved up to the chairman position. So I don't think so, but it is very typical for the first couple weeks of session to be slow. There's been a lot of caucus meetings on the House and Senate side. Everyone's trying to decide where their priorities are and what legislation they want to pursue. And, there's always those going home bills that are decided on pretty early in the session. So it is typical for it to be slow and then ramp up.
You mentioned the desire to consolidate some agencies. One of the tactics that was brought up in the GOP winter meeting and proposals that they put forward in that vein was tourism. Is there a sense for who would be making decisions about that and who's owning that consolidation goal?
Well, I think there are a few lawmakers who are on the DOGE committee who are really championing those efforts. I believe it was Representative Ehlers in the House and then Senator Lakey in the Senate who are the chairs. We might see them leading efforts. Representative Ehlers really does a lot of licensing, DOPL regulation reform. So I think he could be a champion for some of those efforts, but there is concern amongst legislators about consolidating boards and agencies too much. I mean, I think we had a few bills introduced already along those lines, and they haven't been particularly well received. So, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Anything you see that is going to touch us at this point? Too early to tell.
Too early to tell. I think, the one-time cuts in transportation funding that the governor's proposed are gonna impact locals, because the funds that he's proposing we cut are for road and bridge maintenance. So there may be, delays in some construction projects at the local level. But it really is too soon to tell what all we're gonna see this session.
When is our next update from your team?
I don't know. I would assume we're gonna be at every board meeting.
Yeah, usually monthly when they're in session, so.
Jim and Tim, any questions, comments? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh, robotics.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for having me. Cody? I don't know, is the slides working?
We'll get them up here.
Ah, perfect. Gonna focus on three main areas: the economic impact for 2025, what we brought in, and then how we brought in. So generally that's through the events that we host at the facility. And then we'll talk more about what we have on docket for this year for those same events, anticipated economic impact, and then give some updates on just the facility, the happenings and what's going on. So first slide there, you can see, what we're projecting. We don't have the exact numbers yet. We haven't received them. We haven't requested and received those yet, but we project total impact $4.5 million. Total room nights, 4,750, with local room taxes about 30 grand. Just using these numbers from what we've presented and consolidated throughout the year. How we do that? I mean, I should say, what's our mission at the Aquatic Center? One, we teach people how to swim. That's how we generate most of all of our revenue, is through the swim lesson program. But for the benefit of the hoteliers and here is we want to put heads in bed. So we have a primary focus on making sure that we're going out and getting those events that aren't just the local ones. So the local clubs putting on events, but getting the statewide events and then some of the regional and more importantly, some of the national ones. Those national ones tend to be the most lucrative for us in terms of revenue. And then also, bringing in people to stay at the more higher end hotels in the Boise area. So there is a lot of events for 2025. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to try to summarize, or I did summarize these as best we can, but we had 10 total major events. That doesn't include some of the smaller ones that we did here locally. But the ones that brought in parents and athletes from across the state and regionally, just looking at the numbers, we had over 3,500 athletes that came through the facility in these events this year. Probably close to 4,000 parents and spectators. Most of the events were more of the younger age group, so not the senior kids. They tend to travel with their parents or with chaperones. For the most part, we had about 5 local big meets, but then we had 5 out of states. And then we had one big national meet, which was the sectional meet last March. So we actually did. The docket for 2025 was a little light going into it, but we were able to capture some additional meets throughout the year. Notably, we had the Idaho State Championships held at the facility. The Boise Aquatic facility at the West Y had some issues with their pool that had to go through some maintenance. They're all up and running this time, but again, water space in Idaho is low across the board, and in Boise specifically. So it was great that we had this facility to be able to step in and provide that atmosphere for those kids. And it was a great meet. We had lots of state records that were broken. We had all the schools from across the state. I was there the whole time, it felt like. Got a lot of really good feedback from the coaches and the ADs that came in from across the state. So that from a local state level, I thought was something really good to highlight. Another big one was the Paralympics that was very well received. We had a lot of volunteers. We had a lot of local donations and people that came and volunteered hours to help participate. That we had a local swimmer get some pretty good, Bowen is his name. He gets some good recognition on the national level. And a good thing is that one will be coming back next year as well. So we're seeing some diversity and not just having the high-end national meets. We're bringing in the fast kids, but we're also seeing, we're providing support to some of these other entities, Paralympics being one of them, and then the Idaho State as well. Questions on 2025 events and direct impact before I just keep rambling on, pushing through. 2026 is good. It's nice to say this. We pretty much have the same docket. We have about the same number of events. There's a tweak or two to the name of them, but they almost landed at the same times in March. We did get the Paralympics again as well. So we do expect a pretty active 2026 from an event standpoint. Ryan leads the charge for, getting out there and getting some of these national type events. It goes through a bid process that's super fun, I'm sure, to deal with. But the highlights that I would bring, and the ones that have always been the biggest producer of people, so just putting people in the facility, but also from a revenue standpoint, are these Western age group meets that include the western half of the United States. We ran 2 of these already. They were 2 of our biggest meets overall. We got the 2 senior short course championships in 2027 and 2029. And then we've got the summer Western age group zone. It'll either be in 2027 or 2028. So we're already lining in with some pretty good meets. And I know Ryan has also looked above and beyond some of the one, from a national meet. How do we get some of these higher level ones? Futures being the one that I know he's targeting. So 2025 from an economic impact was great. We had 10 events. I thought we brought in a lot of folks. We had a lot of success. 2026 looks to line up very similar to what we saw in the previous years. Programming and other notes, I actually give a couple shout outs here for some folks, GBAD being one of them. The parking lot, Cody brought it up. We're very excited for the parking lot. I think we're all salivating over the plans to be able to see all these new spaces where people can park. I think from a safety perspective, that's what I'm the most excited about. It's not that we're unsafe right now, but it's going to add a complete thoroughfare around. So it's going to give people a lot more flexibility on the drop off and pick up for our younger kids, our programming kids. We're going to be moving the sheds over to that one area where the fence has a little bit of a gap. I believe that's going to provide some additional security. And then to Cody's point, it's going to help shore up some of the landscaping issue we have because everyone just decides to park on top of the trees. So very excited for that. But we also got some other support from GBAT where they've come in and they provided some maintenance. And I talked to Chelsea specifically about, what they've done. And it's been a great help for her. It's definitely from an operating standpoint been a benefit to us because we're not having to pay to have these folks come in and do some of that. So we really appreciate your continued support day in and day out. We're seeing it not only for what we can provide from a lesson facility, but also just operationally and some cost efficiencies. And then we got a donation from one of our biggest supporters of foundation that gave us new bleachers. So we have the big slide out bleachers that are generally slid in, slid out based on what the events are, but we brought in some bleachers now that we can move around, and we put them around the training pool, specifically designed to give the parents a little bit, we don't want them to be on top of their kids. We want the kids to get some independence, but just a little bit better viewership to be right there, feel a little bit more connected. I think that's been fairly well received. And we double duty those to provide more seating for the athletes in these winter events. We have the outside facility for our summer events, which works great. Kids like to be out there. But for these winter events, when we got 300 kids, we need to put them somewhere nicer than just on the concrete. So some significant improvements in efficiencies, I think, from our partners, GBAT included on the facility side. Programming is starting to tick up. We're starting to see the lessons. It kind of goes through the lull in December when everyone's out traveling. They don't want to take their kids and sit in a hot, humid pool, I guess. They want to go to hot, humid environments like the Caribbean. But January tends to be the months where we start to see folks get back in. So we're starting to see the lesson program tick back up. Chelsea's doing a great job and Daniel's doing a great job finding new ways, creative ways to get new programming. The new one that we're rolling out that we have highlighted here is a triathlon program. We have noticed that there's, the facility really attracts athletes, right? We want swimming programs. We want all these other programs, rafting, kayaking and stuff. But folks are very attracted from the swimming. So how can I get better at swimming? How can I learn how to swim? And triathletes tend to be a really good target market, especially when it's cold in the winter, and they just don't really want to go take a dip in Lucky Peak or Quinn's Pond. So I think this is going to be a good trial run, and we're hopeful that it'll lead up to some of the other local triathlon events that we see here. And obviously the Ironman. So trying to tie into some of that stuff. We had the Swim Across America event, which is something that we donate the pool to. What it is folks come in and they swim big laps around the pool for money forever. It's like the walkathon, jogathon. Remember those fun days from your elementary school. And then our competitive teams continue to see increased growth. It's pretty amazing. My kids swim competitively. When I go in there now, I mean, in the afternoon, we've got all the lanes full and it's not even high school swimming season. So it's pretty exciting to see that we're starting to see a tick up in that growth as well. That would be all I'd have instead of answering any questions that you folks have.
Just checking in on support from Visit Boise. I know that they've been helping with all the numbers there and all of that. And I'm just even looking at some of the dates in March and August, I'm getting the room support that you guys need for any of your events and all that.
Yeah, so I talked to Ryan briefly about that. I think he hadn't gotten an update here as of the last month, but that is something that he is constantly in communication with him on. We just hadn't received that update, mostly because I think we didn't ask. So that would be on our side.
And I know you had, when you first, started, you had the projections. How are you with meeting those projections as far as like revenue?
So the revenue side is higher. We just did increase rates a little bit. We hadn't increased rates since we had started. So this will be our first one. What's always caught us off guard is the operational costs associated with that. So from our original projections, our revenue has held and slightly increased from what we had thought, but the cost has been higher, specifically the cost to service certain debts, the loan that we got for ICCO. But then we've had some other operational stuff, operating a pool in a water environment with high pressure systems. We also realized presented a little bit more difficulty with maintenance. So we had some filter issues that we had talked about, but again, all resolved, heater, all resolved. So as we work through a lot of those, I think we've hopefully mitigated some of those higher end costs, and now we're just in the maintenance phase of that, knock on wood. But I generally would say from a projection standpoint, we're doing great on the revenue side, but unfortunately it's been offset with the operational costs. So we're just not seeing those margins that we were hoping to see this time on, but they're still positive and we are still operationally doing very well.
And do you see those getting better?
Yeah, I was just gonna add the room night projections as well are just slightly off of what they projected by year 3, which were 5,000 and it's 4,750. So
kind of leveling off as far as the cost.
I would say plateauing
Yeah.
would be the term. We saw exponential growth on the front end, which is expected when you start off a program, and then we're starting to see some leveling off. I do think, we did miss the age group zones I highlighted. Those are big ones. We didn't have those the last 2 years. So having that age group zone in the summer will be another big benefit. We will see them in 27, 29. So we just need to continue to step up what those events are. Spread them out through hopefully the entire year. We tend to get them in spring and we tend to get them in fall, which operationally makes it a little difficult for Chelsea, right? She needs to notify all the swim parents that they have a meet that week and we don't want to lose revenue there. So it is a balancing act, making sure we don't have too many events that we're losing money on the programming side. So what I'd say is, yes, we want that increase in events to continue to go up. We want them to be the higher quality ones that bring us the most revenue and the most people coming in from out of state. And I think that's increasing, and then we can hopefully tier off on some of the lower revenue ones, the local ones. Not that we don't want to do them. We just need to find better times to do them where it's not interfering with the programming as much. But the focus needs to be on the program. That's really where we generate most of our funds operationally.
So the end of this 26, do you think it'd be positive?
I would have to talk to Ryan, the keeper of the books, to get a final answer on that. I haven't seen the projections for 2026 at this point.
Okay. What I'd seen is expenses were increasing to the point where they were using a little bit of that from the foundation side to kind of subsidize off of it. But I believe that that's continuing to be how they're looking at the programming balance from events and
similar to what you guys do.
Yep, 100%.
Questions?
No, it's a great presentation.
Jim and Tim, any questions?
None from my end.
All right, well, let's get that parking lot done, huh?
Yes, a couple months. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Julie.
Now we get a chance to bat and clean up as Julie.
You have the best for last, right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, thank you.
Batting cleanup. Batting cleanup. It's a baseball term.
Okay.
She's the closer.
I didn't know it, but I liked it. She's the closer.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're starting to talk about some operational updates. Before I start, I want to thank Cody and the Boys Center team. I was on maternity leave and really supported me through that time, and I got to spend time with the baby. So and got so much done. So I'm excited to talk about it. December was busy with the Boise Center West refresh. So what ended up happening is you typically have close to 2.5, 3 weeks. We condensed everything in the first 2 weeks, and especially in West. And so we actually had 36 events with County Festival of Trees. The first 2 weeks, we served 6,300 people. In this first week, 6,300. The second week, 6,200. Which, talking to Chef, maybe typically do like 2,000 to 3,000 a week on average. So just talking about how we, the sales and events team did a great job just putting all those events, being able to just line them up so that we had a ton happening in those first 2 weeks. And so really wanted to highlight that as it was a really busy December for the team. We had lots of hours and days. So we moved 15,000 chairs in 5 overnights in that time period. One of the highlights, just want to talk about our team and our adaptability, but we had an event that Western Aircraft Holiday Party, they miscalculated their attendees and they actually were short 65 meals. And so we were like, whoa, what, hey, we can figure this out. And so we actually came up and were able to feed all 65. And really it speaks to our hospitality and making sure that everyone was fed, the client was happy. And we could have said, no, we don't need to serve it because it wasn't on the order. But, our team just worked together and ops set up the table. So just wanted to highlight that as like something our team really is proud of and how we work together to service the events. And then I will show some pictures and highlights of the Boise Center West refresh as we move along. I couldn't remember if Cody, did you guys see our video that we shared with our staff?
We updated core values for Boise Center. I couldn't remember if I played the video for you guys or not. I don't believe it did, so go ahead.
I don't remember.
All right, well, we're gonna play it because it's a really good, cool video. She's no longer here and was a great AV lead for us, but we went from 15 core values and we're able to get it down to condense it to 4, which I love. It's gonna be able to train to coach to, lead to. So this video captured our team in talking about values before they actually knew our core values, which was great. So,
If you didn't know, downtown Boise is the place to be, according to Mary Michael.
My job is to tell everyone about how great Boise is and how terrific the service is at Boise Center.
Service excellence means going above and beyond for a guest, a client, a vendor.
Customer service and hospitality is what we're here for.
We have our wow value. We want to make sure that every person that comes through our doors just has the best experience.
Every department had a hand in making their first impression happen.
Every spot that somebody has touched, we clean it. I've been shocked to find stainless steel handprints on the ceiling.
It's those little touch points, those little check-ins, just going over and saying, hey, how are things going?
There's something to be said for the clients that keep coming back year to year.
I think anyone who's been around Boise Center staff know just how much they care.
It takes passion and you have to truly love what you do.
I can be anything.
Everybody here has some type of passion.
Hardworking, caring.
We have such a culture of like helping each other.
Just speaking from my own experience at the AV department, it's a bunch of nerds. Everyone brings their own kind of skill set and everyone's excited to face all these technical challenges that we have.
Everyone is kind of empowered to bring their own little creative spark and their little bit of ownership to the event. Those tiny little touches, you can feel the human behind them.
So everybody takes a lot of pride in our center.
You just see it through all the hard work that everyone puts out.
I think it's really authentic.
The employees strive to be that way here. I think it's important to all of us and it does make an impact.
I don't think they run into that at other convention centers.
To be adaptable,
strategic. Things could change at the drop of a hat.
Events, there's always something changing with events. So how do we make sure that we're continuing to pivot when we need to? Maybe we can't do this, but can we do that?
We have to be ready to meet the needs of any type of person.
Every day is different. You can come in one day and be working a trade show to a meeting, to a gala.
It's honestly chaos sometimes. We thrive in chaos at the Boise Center. It's all good things.
You never know what kind of silly shenanigans we're all going to get into.
And it's a job that really lets us flex our creative and problem solving muscles.
That's where we can truly be adaptable, right? When you see everybody come together,
figure out the best course of action and being able to change and pivot.
And that's when I think we really shine, is when we're able to come together and make it happen as a team.
Having good camaraderie is good for the overall morale.
Teamwork is super important here because there often is a lot of little things.
When you are putting on an event, it is not a one department show.
We're all intertwined in one way or another. There's not one single department that's better than the rest of them.
If we can work better seamlessly between departments, like we're only going to be better as a group.
We do a lot of cross training. It's fun working with other departments to get to understand how their day-to-day looks like.
So I know how to make like my job better for them and their job better for me. And
I just see that the teams are starting to come together more, and I really like that.
Seeing everybody just get a little bit better.
I also think the Boise Center always has a way to find a way to make sure you're able to do what you can. I've injured my hand and I was able to be put on like other tasks in other departments.
I was able to work during school and like get the hours I needed.
We are definitely for moving up here at the center.
When I had the opportunity to be a coordinator, management really helped me with that and encouraged me.
And it seems like they really care about me and that they want to see me grow.
I think it was Joji who put it best.
We work at the sitcom factory.
And sing.
So thought it was worth sharing. This is really, I'm excited for what we'll be using the core values moving forward in the mission statement. It was really nice. Just highlight some few trips this past year. So Ashley and Sam, for our pastry chefs, were able to go to IBIE in Vegas, meet with some vendors, new vanilla, which is key to pastry shifts. Amber, our AV manager, attended LDI, so getting some more trends on the AV side, as well as getting certified in haze and fog, which is something that comes in our building quite often. IAVM, the international conference, was in New Orleans, and so they have, again, a sales track, which I know our sales team attended, and then also looked at other vendors such as Lillian's Tables, which I'll talk about later on. 2026, Cody will be leading the charge on the IAVM conference in Spokane. I'll be attending venue management school, so I'm really excited for the opportunity to learn from other venue managers, but also be able to network and attending that conference. It's in Palm Springs for a week. And then IMAX, I will be attending this year. So we have done a restructuring. The sales department will be under my umbrella. And so I'm really excited to be able to attend this conference and see on the sales side, work more with Ali, but also understanding from start to finish of events. And so being able to know what on operational side to help sales and vice versa. So this is a really exciting change. I look forward to seeing a big IMAX, as I hear is big. So it'll be a good first one to see. And then I'll just go through quickly the operational updates for the departments. Just wanted to display this a little bit more simple than last time, but just as the overall client survey that Cody reports on, but just comparing 2025 to 2024. So our events team continued at 4.8 out of 5 on the booking side of the or just on their role. So they continue to meet the client's expectation. Operations and 4.7 out of 5 overall. Restrooms, we are still looking at different ways to continue to improve that score with QR codes. When the remodel happened with the small bathrooms or next to room 100, really we've created additional signage to move them to the larger bathrooms. So things like that to help these scores. Technical services, we have an increase in AV equipment. Internet is still something that we're working with clients, especially local clients that don't want to potentially maybe purchase the internet. And so really trying to figure out ways to bundle that differently is one of our objectives, as well as we hired a part-time IT to really help that department. We've grown a lot in terms of internally when I think of how many full-time staff we are, but with events. And so having a couple more layers of IT is I think gonna help this area. And then food and beverage and 4.5 out of 5. A little bit low. We rolled out the menu halfway through the year, so I'm hoping with some of that will help in 2026, but this is something I'm going to keep an eye on for food and beverage. And then operations. So we now have glass recycling containers on site, so which is really neat. We're working with public services to pick up. We've actually reduced our waste because now instead of we wouldn't recycle beer bottles, for example. We were just crushing up wine bottles. So really hoping that helps the landfill as well as the new trash and recycling bins that Cody talked about last time, teaching people, what we do and don't recycle. Everyone knows every state, every city is different. So I think that's really going to help with waste. And then new linenless tables, the water station pictured there, and you not having to rent a linen for that, skirting. So just helping with being more, I think it's a slick look, better scratch resistant, but also just helping with labor and setup. So, and then it was already talked about our partnership with the Aquatic Center. So really just helping on the building side, not the operating side with the pool, and hoping to continue that partnership and meeting quarterly. And then staffing update, we are looking at assistant facility maintenance role. We've been wanting this for quite a while. We're finally gonna hire someone to help with layers with under Dave, and as the buildings get older. So, and then similar headcount as previously. Technical services. So one of the big projects that got completed with the Boise Center West refresh was new digital sign monitors. And so as you can see, the top one, it's a 17-inch monitor, and then the one that now is there is 43-inch. And so really trying to allow, again, it's a commercial base. It's the Mayor Michael, thank you for help with the look of it. So we were able to kind of get Boise. We saw this at some of the conventions we had attended. So having the skyline pictured in the digital signage was just a new look that we went from previously. But it is Populous, which is a cloud-based software. So we'll be able to input easier upload pictures for clients. We're really hoping they'll be rented out more and help with wayfinding. That's always the challenge, is finding your conference. So you'll see them all around the facility. The biggest impacts is the 110s, 120s, and 410s. And then with the new Grove facing screens, I don't know if you saw them coming in, but they're now an LED wall. And so this is, they're brighter. Actually, they're only about at 50% brightness. So we could have them even brighter, but we'd obviously, we don't want it too bright, blinding people. So this is really going to help shine through the glass. And so that's a lot of the issues with the last monitor, as well as just helping with that wayfinding. And then staffing update, restructuring with Adam McCoy leading, we're gonna, instead of a lead, add an assistant manager. And then we've hired some additional IT, and that's for that increased IT and some AV, but we're gonna focus on gross margin this year with Todd and Heather on staff. Food and beverage, going with the linenless tables. So we have new banquet ones, same thing. New look. We're also working with IT and having monitors in the kitchen that are in the process of digitalizing our BEOs. And so now hoping to really reduce that human error, right? When we're printing and, oh, there's been a change or a menu change and it's not printed. So this is really going to help like helping the digital side of the kitchen team. And then big news with Chris Lochner, he is retiring April 1st, and that's the date he chose. It's not April Fool's joke. He's been with us for 29 years and 36 years in the industry. So huge shoes to fill. He had been at McCormick Center, the Kentucky Derby, all the things. And so I'm in the process right now. I have an in-person interview coming tomorrow and next week. We have some candidates coming in for this position. So we'll keep you posted, and we're roughly around the same amount of people. Julie, will there be a transition time so that there's overlap? Yes, and so his leading April 1st, we're on our third round with these candidates, so hopefully, cross fingers that one of them works out, and that this person will be March 1st or
looking for a 30-day transition period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll big events in there and make sure they
learn from Chris. They see how he does it.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cody already touches on Sensi, but these are just some new events for this year. The Idaho Catholic Youth Conference in March, a new event with 800 room nights, 150,000 revenue, and 749,000 economic impact. And then Smart Meetings thought would be worth mentioning with the Boise partnership with Visit Boise Grove Hotel and local partners. This is huge for Boise. And I'm talking to the sales team. I think it said 13 years trying to get this event here, and what that means to get these 60 planners and 60 suppliers to see what Boise's about. So this team's really excited about that event. All right. And then the West Refresh. So the West Refresh included, we got the carpet, baseboards, paint, wallpaper covering, basically everything between, and this is also
a lot to happen between a holiday break. So I really want to shout out to Nick and Dave who are here during this time, being able to work with Petra on this project. So excited about the look. And so as you can see, even the carpet we're in here, it's the same, taking that look from east to west. And they had even painted the ceilings that were brown. So we're really excited about it. What you'll see towards the end of this event is the governor's event is the first one that we were able to have in this space. Instead of having them in East, we were able to, they were able to have more attendees, about a couple hundred more attendees, because we were able to have this in West in time for their event. We do have a punch list with Petra. There's a couple things that still didn't get completed. So we're working through and making sure it doesn't impact our events. But as you know, these projects are big and we'll make sure to butt it up. And this footage is actually off our security camera. So Grant, who's in the room, actually helped put this together. So thank you. Condensed security camera to be able to show the timeline.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, so that's part of the governor's event. And then just a couple more pictures of the West refresh. So all the hallways were done, which I didn't picture them, but that's 130 Junior Ballroom. So you can really see by the acoustic panels, we went with more neutral, like not standoutish color, as you can see before, was like a green, red. It's almost like a wave. It's kind of how I scream over the river. And then obviously 100 Ballroom, you can see the difference between before and after of the color panels. I think the clients are going to be clients are really excited to see the difference and just be able to make it their own, right? They can add different colors and not clash with the carpet. And then the couple other capital projects, the new trash and recycling compactors, we used to lease these. Now we purchase them, which should give us an ROI in the next 5 years. And so that's something that will help us, and also newer technology with them. So that was a great purchase that we're using them now. The autonomous vacuum. So this was something that we're also has an ROI of 3.5 years. So it's something where let's set a room, have it vacuum after us, vacuum at night. So we're still working on what makes sense to and when to use it. But it's again using that technology. That's during Festival of Trees.
It was fun to watch the public at Festival of Trees watch vacuum. Everybody's like, nobody's driving that thing. No, it's okay.
Didn't you name it? What did you guys name it?
Oh, we did name it.
It is Lightning
shoot, you remember
McLean.
like Mick
Lightning McLean.
Lightning McLean. That was so that we had the team vote on it. So took a survey and then that was what was picked. So I'll have to get it labeled.
I tried WOW 2D2. I pushed for WOW 2D2, but the team didn't vote on that one. So. But Lightning McLean is good. So.
Definitely.
The Curve video board, so that is our promotional video of the size of what the old video board was. And so the new one is that extra black space. And so it is much bigger. One of the things in technology is actually there's been more competition in the market. So this was cheaper than when we bought it in 2018. There's more curved walls. That was more like a first generation, right? So really excited. It's going to be easier to repair. The dimensions around close to that 9x16. So clients will have less time on our end having to really try to make it that dimension before. So I think it's gonna almost be like an art piece in that spot. It also could help with, we can divide it into different sections to be able to do like maybe wayfinding on one side and image on the other. So we're really excited to have that installed, and it was already used at the governor's side. And then just some objectives. We are getting new banquet chairs well, they're brown right now, so it will match this new color set. Also, what's exciting about those will hopefully be 5 pounds less per chair, which helps with staffing and moving, just with what is out there that we're looking at. So more to come on that, hopefully the next couple months to get those purchased. And then looking at the lobby furniture of what now the carpet, having to look at what lobby furniture makes sense. Technical services, and trying to get really ahead of some of these groups. How do we make sure that we're getting AV on the top of their mind? So with Todd and Amber being the charge, looking at that side of AV as well as onboarding assistant manager, and then new dishwasher at the end of life. So that's a big project for West. So we'll be an RFP shortly for that, and then hiring the new director for beverage. And then we are increased our room rental pricing this year in July. We haven't done it since I've been here, and then
EventDraw software is another program that will actually hope in the future integrate with Momentus, which is our event booking. And so this is really going to help build layouts for our that help our event team build layouts. All right, went quick. Do you have any questions, Ray?
What's going on?
It's great.
You totally need googly eyes on the vacuum.
I'd like Lightning McQueen to attend our next next meeting.
We're gonna get it a name tag, so we'll have a little name tag as it goes around, so.
Yeah,
I just want to recognize Julie. She has done such a great job in her role, really taking on more of the change of having sales come underneath and directly report through her. I think is something that's going to be a great opportunity to really kind of step up. What she talked about, that very first initial, how are we getting the business in the door, and then operationally, how are we delivering on it, and then the back end side, and Julie having the oversight of all of that, I think is really going to be beneficial to the operations.
I'm glad you're tracking some of those, you know, the feedbacks on some of those items, you know, as far as the evaluation.
Well, like the client feedback.
Mhm.
Percentage,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
when
didn't
you get-
see, you know, it looks like food and beverage, there may be some things to tweak there, right?
What's really cool, I mean, and actually, one of the things I have is the Copilot with Outlook, and you can use generate this data quicker, right? And being able to see where we're at and be able to share that with the team. And so I've been using that as a way to be like, hey, this is something, you know, comparison. And so I made sure to share that, and we'll continue to talk with my team on all those.
Great.
Cool.
Nice job.
TM or Jim, any comments or questions?
Great work. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Fresh breath of air.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for a long meeting. I know it was a longer one than normal, but a lot of activity going on, and just appreciate again board support. A lot of the stuff you saw on the screen today are the support you guys give under capital projects for renovations to new technology. It does keep our building up to date and our clients happy. So thank you.
I know when I approved the invoice for the autonomous vacuum, I was like, that's a lot of money for a vacuum, but it's pretty funny to see it.
The 3.5-year ROI on it, so it'll start paying itself off.
Yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
festival trees. I've got to imagine there's a lot of that. We can operate it manually if we need you to.
Yeah.
How much is a new dishwasher?
Around 200,000 for commercial.
Stuff we buy is not cheap.
Yeah, so we do that. That's why I have to do an RFP. We can't just take quotes. And so that's where you'll see that come through.
Do that number of plates in that quick a time. is very
The amount of maintenance we're doing on it right now, we really were just purchasing a new one.
No wonder you get to name it.
Mhm.
If you haven't seen it, it's like a car wash. It's the size of a gas station car wash. It's huge. Big. I mean, I kind of exaggerate. It's.
Yeah, it is about half the size of a car wash.
Yeah. Yeah. You could put a clown car through it. Easy. New Lightning McQueen.
All right, seeing no other business for the board, meeting is adjourned.